Greetings and welcome to the channel. This is Mikhailov from Team Retrogue, where we like retro games and the devices that bring them to us. My Odin 2 Mini finally arrived in the mail yesterday. It was quite the journey to get one of these. The first one AYN sent me got lost in the mail and caused a little bit of delay, but the replacement unit is finally in-house and I spent most of last night and today setting it up. Now, because I'm going away on vacation Tuesday, I don't have time for a full-blown review before retail units start shipping out to customers. So we're going to do a first look. We'll unbox the device, take a look at the hardware, and do some preliminary testing with the intention of helping you decide if this device is worth your pre-order. Then, when I get back from vacation, we'll hit the ground running with a full review. So with that, let's dive in and get to work. At time of recording, the Odin 2 Mini is available for pre-order direct from AYN's website, starting at $339 for the base model and $399 for the Pro model. The pre-order period ends on June 21st, which is this coming Thursday. And if you pre-order, you can use the code Odin2Mini10 to get $10 off the device. The handheld I will be using in this impressions video is the Black Pro model. And full disclosure, I did pay for this unit with my own money, but AYN was willing to ship it out to me early for review. As is always required, all opinions are my own. I'm not being paid, and they are not seeing this video before it is published. It is also worth noting that the base model of the original Odin 2 is currently on sale for $299 and is a bigger unit with a bigger screen, but the same internals. If you're looking for something a little cheaper and size isn't an issue, you might also want to consider this unit. We're going to talk about some of the differences between these two units a little later in this video. But for now, it's time to hop on our mount and ride into Spec Town. The CPU is powered by a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor with an Adreno 740 GPU. These are the same CPU and GPU as the original Odin 2. Depending on which model you pick up, you will receive 128 or 256 gigabytes of onboard storage with micro SD card expansion. The base model comes with 8 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM, while the Pro model comes with 12 gigabytes. The device advertises a 5-inch mini LED screen, which is the main attraction here, and we'll be doing some screen comparisons a little later as well. The Mini is equipped with a smaller 5,000 milliamp hour battery compared to the 8,000 milliamp hour battery in the original Odin 2. There is one USB-C port that is capable of video out, as well as a second video out via a micro HDMI connection. The Odin 2 Mini has front-facing dual speakers for sound, and for connectivity, there is Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.3. The device ships with Android 13. I have been very eager to get this in hand, so let's move on to the unboxing. Inside this stunning holographic-looking box is a getting started sheet that also lists the specs of the unit. Then, there's the unit itself, a USB cable, and not much else. It's a pretty bare-bones unboxing experience. My first impressions of the unit, however, is that it's actually a little heavier than I expected. I expected it to feel very lightweight, like the Retrogue Pocket 4 Pro or the PlayStation Vita, but there is a surprising amount of heft to it for a mini handheld. Other than that, it looks premium as heck. So let's jump into the device tour next. Starting with the shoulder buttons at the top, you can very clearly tell that this device is inspired by the PlayStation Vita. These bumpers are made of a clear plastic and curve with the device, which is a design choice that I've always admired. The bumpers and triggers function as you would expect them to. At the top of the device, we have access to the micro SD card slot, micro HDMI out, volume buttons, and a power button. Unlike the original Odin 2, there is no fingerprint sensor here. There is no I/O on the sides, so let's move on to the front of the device, with that 5-inch mini LED screen. I'm kind of surprised to see a bezel design here, but that's not necessarily a deal breaker. Bezels are just a way of life. The joysticks are the same ones from the Odin 2 and feel just as good, so let's move on to this D-pad. I really adore this D-pad design. It's a very clicky D-pad similar to the Odin 2, but this clear design really enhances that PS Vita look. The same with the remainder of the face buttons. AYN decided to use an Xbox-style layout for this handheld as opposed to the Nintendo-style layout on the Odin 2, but the labeling of these buttons is so transparent that you won't even notice the labels during regular play. And I really like the design of these buttons because of that. The front of the unit also has two front-facing stereo speakers that again blend in with this sleek design. And the bottom of the unit has a USB-C slot and a headphone jack. The back of the unit has the AYN logo in a very unobtrusive place, some slots for exhaust, and two TPU pads for your fingers to rest on. Again, very much inspired by the Vita. So let's do some comparisons to other handhelds. And we'll start with the big brother, the Odin 2. Compared to the Mini, the Odin 2 looks huge, but it actually isn't that much wider, and surprisingly, it doesn't feel that much heavier either. And because the Odin 2 has controller grips in the back, it feels more comfortable to hold in the hand. However, it is definitely bigger and less pocketable. Next up is the Ayaneo Pocket Air, which is also a little wider and thicker than the Mini, but this is a nice, light handheld. This was the one that I was using right before bed before the Odin Mini came in. Now moving on, let's take a look at the Retrogue Pocket 4 Pro. Now this isn't as powerful as the Odin 2 Mini because it runs on a weaker Dimensity chip, but it is also much cheaper. And this is the closest in size to the Mini out of the Android handhelds I currently own. It's also much lighter and is a more D-pad centric device. So the 4 Pro might be a good fit for lighter weight systems like Game Boy Advance, while the Odin 2 Mini can pump out some heavier hitters with its power and its joystick placement. And finally, we have an original PlayStation Vita. This device is so much thinner and lighter than the Odin 2 Mini, but putting it next to the Mini like this really shows how dated this device has become. Imagine if Sony didn't drop this handheld and kept iterating on it. And that's what the Odin 2 Mini looks and feels like. A PlayStation Vita for 2024. So let's do some quick weight comparisons using Scaly. The Odin 2 Mini comes in at 324 grams. The original Odin 2 comes in at 416 grams. The Retrogue Pocket 4 Pro is the second lightest at 267 grams, and the original PS Vita 2000 is the lightest of the group, coming in at 218 grams. It's kind of crazy that out of these 4 handhelds, the Odin 2 Mini is the second heaviest, with its bigger brother being the heaviest. When it comes to performance and battery life, I'm going to save that for my final review. I don't expect this device to last longer than an Odin 2 just because it has a smaller battery. But this device will have the same performance as the original Odin 2. So I'm going to leave links to my old Odin 2 videos in the description below. Please check those out if you're interested in seeing how this device performs. Back then, I said that the Odin 2 was a game changer, and I still stand by that statement. There are just a few more things that I want to cover in this impressions video, so let's continue by talking about that mini LED screen. AYN advertises this screen as having 155% sRGB color gamut, 1100 nits of brightness, and dynamic range contrast. At first look, the screen is pretty darn impressive. But as I began to use the device, I noticed that when there was a lot of white on screen, like using a web browser, it was way too bright, even at only 50% brightness, to the point where it was actually hurting my eyes. This led me to put the device in dark mode and just leave it there. I also noticed a little bit of vignetting as I was using the device. Specifically, when loading into Emulation Station Desktop Edition, I noticed some of the graphics and colors fading on the load screen. This didn't bother me during gameplay, and so it's not a deal breaker in my eyes, but I noticed it enough that I felt it was worth mentioning, especially if you're sensitive to things like ghosting or vignetting. Personally, I found this screen actually really shine when playing bright, colorful games like Super Mario World. So let's continue the screen discussion by just comparing this mini LED display to the IPS display of the original Odin 2. Now, I am not a screen expert by any means. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of title screens up for different games at 50% brightness for both systems, and I will let you form your opinions on the screen from there. So we're going to start with Super Mario World. Next is Dave the Diver. Horizon Chase. And finally, Metroid Dread. Here are some quick thoughts of my own because it's kind of hard to capture the screen differences on camera. It's really something that you notice only when you're looking with the naked eye. The Odin 2 Mini definitely has a brighter screen and some richer colors than the Odin 2. But the Odin 2 screen is still very gorgeous to look at, and it does tend to get darker at minimum brightness. However, the Odin 2 Mini also gets plenty dark in low light, and when I was playing in bed next to my wife, she didn't complain that the light was bothering her. Probably because she was binge watching Suits on Netflix. So if you're like me, and you're getting this handheld to keep by your bedside, I think as long as your wife is binging Netflix shows, you'll be fine. Hopefully, those screen comparisons helped you out. So while we're comparing these devices, let's also take note of the fact that the Mini does not have LED lighting around the joysticks like the Odin 2 does. I'm not sure if this was a cost-cutting feature or a restriction of the design, but it's odd that features on the currently cheaper version of the Odin 2 has something the more expensive Odin 2 Mini doesn't. The mappable back buttons on the original Odin 2 are also missing on the Odin 2 Mini. As a portable device, these features are not necessarily needed, but it is a curious exclusion nonetheless. Now, in the limited playtime I've had with this device, I am a little bit concerned about the ergonomics compared to the Odin 2. The Odin 2 is such a comfortable device to hold and play for long gaming sessions. But with the Odin 2 Mini, I found my hands cramping up very quick into my play sessions, specifically in my right pinky finger because there just isn't a good place to rest it. Playing a turn-based game was a little easier because I didn't have to hold the system a certain way for precision and could move my hands around if need be. Now, I've only had the device for a day and a half, but in that short amount of time, I have found platformers harder to play than more RPG or turn-based style games. This is something that I'm going to need to revisit for my final review, but at this moment, the ergonomics are not stellar to me. However, if the Odin 2 was too big for your specific hands, then this device might actually be a home run. This device is a more portable Odin 2, so if portability is your main concern, that might be another reason to get this handheld over the original Odin 2. I will say that my favorite game to play on this device so far is the Switch remake of Advance Wars. I loved this game for Game Boy Advance back in the day, and the form factor and size of the Odin 2 Mini are really best for strategy, puzzle, and RPG games like this one. I imagine Fire Emblem and Pokemon fans will also be right at home using the Odin 2 Mini. I own a physical copy of this game, and I'm bringing my Switch Lite on vacation, so I could very easily be playing on that, but I'm having so much more fun playing it on the Odin 2 Mini that I'll more than likely continue my save file here and continue to play this game right before bed. And on that note, I think that's a good spot to wrap up this video. But I will give some final points here before getting off my soapbox. This device is pretty and premium looking. I love the design, and the screen is nice and bright. Sometimes too bright. The question here is whether this device is worth your pre-order. I would personally compare this device to going to the DS Lite from the original DS. If you already own an Odin 2, you aren't gaining anything performance-wise from purchasing this model, just like those of us who went from a DS to a DS Lite didn't gain anything performance-wise, we just got a different form factor. So for existing Odin 2 owners, unless you really want something smaller and are planning to sell your Odin 2 to put toward the Odin 2 Mini, there might not be a compelling reason to jump on a pre-order. However, if you like the smaller form factor and want a powerful device in a tiny shell, then the Odin 2 Mini might just be the device to pre-order. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this a device you are considering? Do you have one pre-ordered already? And what do you want to see in my final review? And please feel free to continue the conversation on the Retro Handhelds and Steam Machine Discords, where you can find me hanging out in between videos. And if you want to support the show, like these wonderful people here on the screen, you could do so by going to my Patreon page. Links for all those places are in the description. But that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe if this video was helpful to you in any way. Every smash of that button helps the channel grow and allows me to get more content out to you. But until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.